What's up, Hypno Fam? We've got an organic hypnosis guide to asking better questions. I can't wait to dive into this content with you. I was just out at HypnoThoughts. I got to teach how I work with clients and a bunch of students in there. It was a fascinating journey. We got to explore all kinds of cool stuff together. That recording is up on YouTube. I'll link to it below. If you don't see it below, just message me. I'm happy to send it to you. This is going to actually help supplement your understanding of what's going on in that video. Here's the thing, I only had a couple hours. It's a course I teach a few times a year. Students pay once, they come forever. It's awesome in that way because it continues to exponentially accelerate your skill set when you're trying to learn this approach, and it's continuing to adapt all the time because I'm continuing to explode with new ideas, new realizations, understandings that I share with my students. So full disclosure, I'm doing my best to walk you through a condensed version of supplementing that training as much as I can. I've got 2 pages here, I believe. Yeah, 2 pages here that we're going to go through. So I want to dive into it. As you have your own understandings and realizations, write them down. It's really important. It's not about mimicking what I say here. Principle or idea 2 here. It's about what you discover, not what I cover. That's the premise for the entire training and how I work with clients. So diving in. If I were going to help you enhance your question asking skill, ironically, I would not do is have you focus on asking better questions. Here's why. Ultimately, you can't know the right question to ask. It's impossible. Client work is alive. It's dynamic. It's something that's to be discovered in the moment. That's why the focus is on joining that moment-to-moment experience of reality. And we're just sharing that with the client. We're learning these things together as they unfold naturally. But I did skip a little piece here. The idea is that we're tapping into the unconscious mind, the unlimited model. I don't want to come in with a model in mind. I want their mind to show me its power. And I want that client, more importantly, to experience how powerful their mind is. This is life-changing. And part of that, I'm going to get to this a little later, is that I'm only with clients for 35 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe. It depends on the situation. But ultimately, they're going to leave my office. I want that journey to continue for the rest of their life. And that's the sort of the meta of what we're after. So I want to state that on the front end. That's why I love organic hypnosis and this approach when working with people. So we're on number 2 here. The journey in a session is really those moment-to-moment experiences you share with them. And here's why that's awesome. The pressure is off, right? Once you really accept that reality, once you start working this way with people, planning is like, I would never even think to do that. I would feel perhaps the way you might about going into a session without a plan or without a protocol or approach. I feel the opposite now. For me, the longest time, it was a huge concern. I don't know what to do. What if they say this? What if there's too many variables to consider? I could never plan thoroughly enough and extensively enough to have all the answers on the front end, but we don't need them. They already have the answers. That's what makes this approach so great. That's why it's the unlimited model. Their unconscious mind will do the work. We just get to hang out and have fun with them. And I love this point here at number 2. Even with a plan, even with a protocol, if you're working in that approach, how many times have you been in a session with a client and they do something so spectacular and beautiful and unique to them, it blows your mind, it blows theirs. It just goes in this incredible, unexpected direction. Well, organic hypnosis is about starting there. We want that to be our point of intervention, the thinking behind the thinking, if you will. It's something we talk about a lot. It's the zero assumption process, ZAP, silly acronym, but I'm going to go into that more as we dive in. You'll start to get it as we go around the edges of how we could start to operate from the premise of zero assumption. Number 2, discover versus cover. Yeah, when I was out there, I had folks say, Vinny, you're working in an indirect way. I really admire how indirect you are, how they use the phrase like artfully vague, which I think is very touching because I'm a bit of an Erickson fan. But I want to make a conceptual distinction between indirect and direct, and not to confuse or argue semantics, but this is more something for you to explore in your leisure. What could be more direct than just creating the opportunity for that client's unconscious mind to do everything, to guide the session completely? To me, that seems like the most direct approach ever. And again, this is not a semantical thing, but it's just something for you to explore and have some fun with if you choose to. Folks said, hey, Vinny, I love how covert you are working with people. And I actually see this as the most overt approach possible. I have no interest in doing anything covertly. For me, the cards are on the table. I talk about laying our cards on the table. That's the environment I'm setting. I don't have any tricks up my sleeve, and I'm asking the client to do so as well. It's not about that I'm the wizard behind the curtain and this is Oz. It's you're the wizard. I want you to discover the power within you, right? And then we can use that. And that's, again, something they can take with them for the rest of their life as they go on. And it wouldn't make sense for me to have that type of an approach if I truly believe their unconscious mind already has all the answers it needs. And we're going to talk about that a little bit once we get to tacit inferential suggestions. I want to bring up one point here, maximal client empowerment. That's going to be explored. But the thinking is simply, if I'm doing this for them, that's one thing and they can still get a powerful result. But ultimately, if they do it, I think when they have challenges in the future, they've learned that they've already tackled something that was a major challenge for them. What are the chances that person is going to meet that future challenge differently? I think we're enhancing that. So maximal client empowerment, so I don't leave any open loops on you. So avoiding tacit inferential suggestions. This is a big one. So I don't want to imply I know what you need versus you can discover what you need. I believe you already have what you need inside you. I'm just going to give you the space you need to discover it very quickly. Right? I want you to explore. And again, what's the meta here? Well, when they leave the office and they have those challenges, they've already utilized their own faculties and tools to be able to handle a challenge. Even if I am right, even if I've guessed correctly that I know what you need, I'm much more interested, and I think it's of much more value for that client, for them to do it, for them to discover it. And frankly, I could be wrong. I could think I know, and I could think this is what they need, but then I get a call back in a month because they're still having problems with cigarettes or whatever the issue is that we're dealing with. So that's also like a mode of being thing. Internally, if I am communicating that I have this answer for them, it might start to create a little bit of resistance around their opportunity to discover it. I think you'll start to get a sense of what I'm talking about as we go through this. Let's hop into resistance here. Resistance just becomes an opportunity to discover more and explore and create even more powerful new understandings with your client. That's what's powerful about organic hypnosis, and I love this approach because anything that looks like it would have maybe got you stuck in the past, that's just an opportunity now. And it's an incredible opportunity. A lot of times there's more power in the resistance because we're sort of utilizing it in a very clever way. Here's an example. So I had a student ask me, well, what if someone just outright refuses to look at some issue of their life? Well, yeah, we can just use that now. You can say something like, I noticed a little bit of hesitation when we were looking at this. What's that about? And being able to help that person get through that resistance they have to looking at an area that is painful for them, that can serve them forever. That can help them have better communication skills. They can become more introspective. Their path to discovery is greatly enhanced. So now every area of their life improves because they're less scared of who they are. They're more in alignment with themselves. And I think that's just an incredibly powerful place to be. In organic hypnosis, we think about this in terms of moving from being hypnotic to doing hypnosis, right? Anytime we're doing hypnosis, there's a chance we can start to perhaps increase some resistance in that client in front of us, but we also might start to experience internal resistance within ourselves. Because what we've done is we've left that dynamic flowing space, that unlimited model where their mind can create everything it needs to solve this problem in the way that's perfectly unique to that individual, versus here's my suggestion now. Okay, so that's a sort of a resistance. Now, you might even start to feel it when you're working with somebody. It's like, okay, well, now it's time to do this induction, and you start to have different things creep up inside of you. But we don't want that, right? I want that sort of flowing dynamic space again. I love that. Why do you think that internal resistance or resistance might start to show up? I'm just curious. If you want to pause the video, write down some notes, now's a great time to do that. I think it's because We've now started to determine the course of intervention versus their unconscious mind. I kind of said it already. But I really think anytime we're making the determination, now I have taken that from the client in a sense. Taken's kind of a strong word, but what I would rather do is give them the opportunity to select, because they've got to live with themselves for the rest of their life, right? And so it's almost like there's this really powerful idea of almost like emotional fractionation. Let's say, going back to that scenario where the person was a bit hesitant to explore something. As you guide them into the hesitation now versus the thing that's scary, and that you sort of have this dynamic flowing exchange with that person, of course, the emotional intensity of that thing they're hesitant to explore is going to start to lessen. It's almost like that mini exposure therapy. We can start to fractionate everything. We don't just have to fractionate what we might traditionally refer to as trance. Emotions are very trancy, right? A very powerful thing to do. Instead of us determining that course of action, I would rather just let their unconscious mind do it. This is a powerful thing we do in organic hypnosis. As they get more in tune with their unconscious mind, that relationship can continue to serve that person for life, because they are going to leave your office at some point, or the Zoom call. My time is short with them in the office. I want to optimize for impact. That's how I get so many amazing referrals. And people, they don't even think about the price a lot of the time. They're just like, I can't wait to sign up. It's an incredible place to be. It's because we've made this lifetime of impact, right? We talk about lifetime value of the customers. Well, we want to talk about lifetime value of our service. And what I want to do is optimize for that. What's the most bang for their buck they can get in the shortest amount of time possible? We're always chasing that. I want to change gears though, because we talked a lot about what not to do, and I'm sure you're naturally going to come up with different ideas in terms of how to approach asking questions. Here's just some helpful ideas as you walk this path of discovery with your clients, right? How do we approach learning with our clients? The number one thing that comes to mind, we've got to prioritize learning in space. We want to create a space for the client to understand themselves better. That's the goal. This can help them to develop their tools to do this for life. So understanding themselves better in the moment, but then we would like for that to generalize from the moment they leave the office. And to do that, we have to discover assumption stacks. These are just a collection of beliefs, ideas, etc., that they assume to be true. Okay, these are very powerful. It's like that game Jenga. You got the blocks, and when you pull out the right block, boom, the tower comes down. These assumptions are crippling their life in a lot of ways. So now they can really discover who they are when they're in that state, that unlimited state. They can start to just find different parts of themselves. Different resources can show up and integrate organically. Here's another idea. Unaware assumptions. These are super powerful. As a hypnotherapist, I have certain assumptions I'm not even aware of. I get to discover those and learn about them. I get to explore them and understand myself in a more powerful way. And as I do that, naturally, I show up in a more powerful way for my clients. I can't not, right? It's an amazing thing. Unaware limitations. This is very important, and this can make sure you take this away. Right? I don't want to assume I know what that client needs. And for the longest time, it's a very good example. When I first started working with clients, I was convinced if they had cravings, the work didn't work, right? My session didn't work. My approach was wrong, and that client is still stuck smoking. Well, that's silly though. People can quit smoking with cravings. They do it all the time. That's the majority case, right? So we're ignoring the majority of case. And what I've done in that scenario was I created an artificial parameter, an artificial limitation for my client's success. I said, your success has to look like this. I might even judge their resources. Things would show up for a client. I go, well, that can't be it. That doesn't seem powerful enough. Foolish, right? I don't know that individual. I'm only talking for them. My sessions are like 42 minutes on average. How much can I possibly know about that person versus the unlimited model? When I started working in this more open and organic way, their unconscious mind has access to all of these things. We want to tap into that. And so I can't do that if I'm casting my own limitations upon that person. I'll miss it, right? And I won't respect all the power that the conscious mind has for that individual. Here's another kind of a counterpoint. You can think about this as a metaphor. What if cravings were the way my client could remind themselves not to smoke? And I'm not suggesting this, but I've had it happen, right? And one example early on in my career, I remember getting a text from somebody that I helped. They said, I just can't stop thinking about tobacco. I said, oh, what do you mean? And I'm thinking on the other side of the phone here, oh, I failed. I said, well, it's it's like, I keep thinking about how I don't want to do it. That's incredible, right? So they have the craving, then the response to that, the meaning they assigned to it was, I don't want this in my life anymore. It's amazing. The body's just healing. The meta here, never allow someone else's limitation to become yours, including mine, especially mine. Ultimately, the key premise for anybody is never allow someone else's limitations to become ours. You're going to find organic hypnosis is about you tapping into the way you want to work with people. It's unique to your personality. It's a fun thing to explore. And then synthesis, this is the position of the negation, right? The mind can't not grow as we discover all the sort of assumptions we have. You can really ask anything. It does not matter, right? People will say you can't ask why questions. In the demo you'll see as a part of this video, I asked 11 or 12 why questions. It's just not true, because it's not about the language pattern. Language is more a system of thought anyway versus a system of communication according to linguists. We're thinking about it in terms of communication because we're hypnotists, but people that study the science of this stuff, right, it's more about thought anyway. So you can use a why question, a what question, a how question. You can start, it doesn't matter. What are you creating an opportunity for them to become aware of? All the sort of things we talk about with the leads formula in organic hypnosis. So folks, I hope this is helpful. Feel free to go through it again and make your own notes. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways in the comments, or shoot me a message about it. If you want to build this skill with me, check out my trainings. I teach 2 or 3 times a year. I'd love to have you come. Take care, Hypnosis fam.